So speaking of things that have no real bearing on the world, let's talk about some NCAA players.
Oh, let's talk about Bobby Brink. Here we go.
Yeah, well, he's on the list. So I'm gonna just run down a list, and I just want to hear yours and Ken's. Give me like a 2-minute, almost like an elevator pitch on these folks. I'm going to say the name. Tell me what you're thinking.
I want to ask Jeff something first. So they're bringing in, Buffalo brought in Owen Power. Yeah. Seattle's brought in Maddie Veneers. Phoenix or Arizona's brought in Nate Smith.
Stealing all the names on the list.
Yeah. So anyways, it's an interesting thing, like, because now it's become standard practice that these guys are going to sign and burn that year off their entry-level contract. It doesn't burn off a year towards free agency, but it does burn a year off that entry-level contract. Yeah. It's interesting that the teams are so willing to do that now. And I'm wondering, with the top end guys, I can't imagine you want to get them through entry level more quickly than they're going to go through, but maybe you do. And
you do.
Yeah. I guess you do. But because then it leads to that longer deal, I guess. And maybe they haven't accomplished as much, but on the player side too, I guess it doesn't really mean that much, but these are incentive-laden deals for these guys. They're never going to hit those bonuses in the first year of their contract. So, it's an interesting sort of push and pull, isn't it?
I think the kids all want to play and want to have their NHL taste and their NHL experience right away. And I think for the team, because I always wondered about that too. Like, oh, don't you want that? Keep that extra year of control and all that.
Yeah.
And then I had one manager tell me, like, look, the second contract, the bridge generally is gone for a lot of these guys. Like, you come out of it and you ring the bell. And he said, look, I would rather negotiate that second contract, which generally is, the big one for these guys, based on 2 years of performance
2 years rather
instead
than
3. Of 3.
Yep.
You know what that third year is like for a pro player. That's like, okay, now I'm feeling it. Now I get it. Now I'm putting up some points. I'm really, I'm really, proving my worth here. He said, look, I would rather, we're all sounding like, prospectors here. Oh, there's gold in them hills. Like, I'd rather prospect and think about and project out what these guys are going to be like. And he said, like, look, I would rather, for my team, I have a better chance of getting a team-friendly deal after 2 years than after 3. After 3, I could really be stuck here. So the kids want to play. Teams want to get a better deal. To me, it's kind of a hand-to-glove situation here.
And I think this year, too, it's – and I don't know if this is much of a factor, but the Buffalo Sabres can tell Owen Power, and the Seattle Kraken can tell Maddie Veneers, and these teams can tell these guys, you're not going to the World Juniors this year. Sorry. It's an August tournament. You're going to miss out on a lot of training. It's going to be a really, really crucial time for you. You're not going to play in that tournament this year, and they now they can just say it. Whereas if you don't have the guy signed, there's not much you can do. Right. But here you can just say, you're not going.
Yeah. With a player like Owen Power, I wonder, because that's a fight with Pat Brisson. That's not. They just had a big fight with Pat Brisson over Jack Eichel. Like, I know exactly what you're saying, and I think by now, like, the kids just want to have their pro careers, and I think the majority of them, and I think everyone's on the same page here. Like, and I know the feeling is, oh, it'll be like a little mini training camp for them. No, it'll be the potential to get injured. I know the potential is there every time you step on the ice, but I'm with you. I think a lot of these guys, anyhow, are once they sign their pro deals, get that taste of the NHL. Yeah, they're not going back. Like,
although I was talking to Mason McTavish about a month and a half ago.
Man, he's good.
Oh yeah. And I didn't even get the question completely out of my mouth about the World Juniors, and he said, "I'm going." He says, "I'm going. If Anaheim lets me go, I'm there." No. But I mean, he hasn't had that opportunity like a lot of other guys have. But it's interesting because the kids, generally they'll probably all want to play, but their agents and their teams will be telling them, this probably is not the best idea.
Right. The thing about Mason McTavish is too, and now that Ryan Getzlaf is retiring, like, the plan for Mason McTavish, like, they love him. I know Dallas Aikens really loves Mason McTavish, and they love him there. Like, I think ultimately, once that guy figures out the NHL, once he arrives there, I mean, up the gut. I know, as much as everyone's in love with Trevor Zegras, who do you think is going to be the first line center there?
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be Zegras. I think it's McTavish. I think McTavish is the guy. He's a more like Zegras gives you the highlights and the sizzle and all that. It's great. Like he's a one-man marketing machine for the NHL. Like that goal against the Buffalo Sabres, him and Sonny Milano, that did more to promote the game of hockey than anything the NHL has come up with. To the point where when he wasn't going to the All-Star game, they had to figure out a way. The NHL and ESPN both wanted him in. They had to figure out a way to get him into the All-Star game somehow. But if you're a coach and you're tapping someone on the shoulder late in the game, sitting on a 1-goal lead, who's getting that tap? Mason McTavish and Trevor Zegras. Like I think Mason McTavish.
Oh, for sure.
Like look at Arizona. Like Arizona shopping around Jacob Chikrin. I believe the ask would be something like Mason McTavish, Olin Zellweger, and a first-round pick.
Yeah, that's a big ask. And he's great. Me, McTavish, you're right about everything you're saying about him. And I think Zegras will be the number 2 behind him. And it will be to his benefit because
completely.
I mean, Mason McTavish is going to do all the heavy lifting. Yeah. He's going to do all the heavy lifting. And then Zegras is going to get better matchups and he's going to be able to do things like he's doing right now. And I think that's what you want, right? That's a dream. Yeah. That's a dream.
Yeah, it really is. I got all day from McTavish, all day.
And you've also got that situation like Pittsburgh had with Malkin and Crosby, where if you need it, you load them up on the line for down into the third, and then if you don't need it, then you've got 2 excellent lines. So
not a problem. Like that prospects pipeline for Anaheim looks really good. I know it's tough sledding right now, and they let go of a lot of really high end talent, and they've taken more than probably one step back, but that one hurts. Yeah. Delorier hurts in more ways than one. A little bit of a blanket, and also, man, he was a really good penalty killer.
Yeah,
Nick Delorier was a really, really good penalty killer.
And
I wonder if he comes back. Thing is, I wonder if he goes back. I wonder if he goes back. The thing is, I can't believe. So a year before he finally, he got dealt to Minnesota. The year before, there were teams that were trying to get him at deadline. You know what the price that Bob Murray wanted? A first-round pick.
Wow.
Like that was the price for Nick Delorier. Like Bob Murray knew, for all of Bob Murray's faults, like he knew what that guy meant to the team. And then Anaheim had that game against Arizona, and I had one.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Troy Terry ends up getting his face pummeled if Nick Delorier is even on the bench in the lineup. Yeah.
So. Not a chance. Anyhow.
Yeah. All right.
So let's do this.
Okay.
Tell me what you're thinking. Owen Powers.
Power.
I thought he was related to Austin somehow.
The way he played last night?
I've done that so many times. I put S's on the end of...
Are you Latvian? Or you put an S on the end of everything? Is that why?
Jeff, do you know Maria Mountain? Do you know Maria Mountain? Do you know Maria Mountain, the strength and conditioning coach?
I don't.
She's like the top goaltending strength and conditioning coach in the country, maybe the world.
Okay.
And I had her on another podcast, and I kept on saying mountains. And so when she tweeted out the announcement that she was on this podcast, she'd put hashtag, that's my stripper name.
There you go. And it's Maddie Veneers, not Veneer.
Yeah, okay. So
just so we've got this straight,
just
okay?
so that we got this.
So Owen Power.
Can we just get the Jack Power? Can we just get the Jack McBains here and be on with it? What's not to love? What's not to love about a 6'6" defenseman that skates like that? Moves well. I mean, you're seduced by the size. I remember watching him play with the Reps too, and I thought that there was a really good player in there, but man, his development just like shot off the pages over the last few seasons. It's interesting. I had a conversation with someone not too long ago about, and this is something, Ken, that you've written about, exceptional status in the OHL.
Right.
And Jack Hughes was denied exceptional status.
He was.
Into the Ontario Hockey League. And there is a belief that by not allowing Hughes, not granting Hughes exceptional status, certainly it cost the OHL Quinn Hughes. And there's some thinking, according to one person I talked to, that it might have cost him Owen Power as well.
Interesting. But I would agree it might have been the best thing to happen to Jack Hughes. He would have been going to Guelph. He was an undersized kid. He went off to do what he did with the U.S. national program, and look at him now, And to me, like the exceptional status, it's interesting because what I like about how they do it is it's an arm's length committee from Hockey Canada. So Dave Branch can't say we're going to take this kid, and he can lobby. I know
he can lobby, and
he can absolutely lobby. And I'm telling you right now, he is lobbying for Michael Misa to get that status,
big time,
for sure. But what I like about it is I know some of the people on this committee, and I trust them as hockey people and as people just generally. And whether they make the right choice or the wrong choice, because they're going to make right choices and wrong choices. Sean Day obviously wasn't the right choice. Aaron Ekblad and a lot of other guys were the right choice. They do it with the player's best. The only thing they think of is the player's best interest. Is this going to be something that is going to help or hurt this player? Can this player handle this on and off the ice, or can't he do it? And that's what I like about it. So if we see Michael Misa, and I mean, 3 guys have applied, the other 2 aren't getting it. Trevor Moore and Ryan Rubrick are not going to get it. Michael Misa may. None of them might get it, but if he gets it, I'm very confident knowing that he will have gone through a process that indicates that he's ready to accept that challenge.
It's April 13th, and there's no word. I have to think that's good for, Wasserman represents Misa. I would have to think that's good for that camp, because I believe the word was supposed to come down, Kenny, around OHL Cup time. So
at first they thought it was, at first it's always been before OHL Cup. They've always done it before OHL Cup.
Now the fact that it's here we are on the 13th, there's no word. Like I was told, like all 3, no way. And then the OHL Cup happened, and that's what Misa shattered all the records and McDavid's records, and they all went, okay, let's maybe let's revisit this here. And then all of a sudden, like, listen, I know the Chicago Steel won them, right? And it may take a transition with prep school, like you go to Shattuck, New Jersey or wherever. But like the USHL is on him now. Not that you make a consideration just based on we don't want to lose him to the United States, but still, like, the pressure's
Adam Fantilli, right? It's Adam Fantilli.
Adam Fantilli.
Adam Fantilli went to Chicago. He's in Chicago now, and he's going to the University of Michigan for his first year before his draft. He'll probably be a 1-year guy, and then he's gone. And then OHL doesn't get him. So,
but I'd have to think, though, here we are at the 13th, and there's no decision that weighs well, or that looks good for his chances of getting exceptional status. I mean, they have to tell teams like before the draft, right? Like, was the draft 29th? Like, is he available?
That would be good. And they have a combine. Not that he would ever have to go to it, but they've got a combine. I think not this weekend, but next weekend, the OHL combine. So.
And they have a lottery. What is the lottery on the 18th? I think.
It's the day. It's the day after the season ends, because the 4 non-playoff teams are going to be in the lottery. So they're I mean. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Kind of got to find out here, like.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we were talking about Owen Power, which was good.
Owen Power.
I love the tangents we go off on with Jeff. Like, it's just great. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I didn't think that we were going to have enough time. Now I'm going to have to cut us. Ken, do you want to weigh in on Owen Power before we move on to the next player?
Well, I just think that all he has to do is play every game in his career like he played his first one, and he'll be a really, really great player. I thought he was outstanding last night.
This podcast has gone too long, because we just talked about at the beginning how you can't play every game in your career like that.
But like he was.
Yeah, it's great.
He looked like he looked like Alex Tuck said. He looked like a 10-year veteran out there.
For the first time in how long have we said, I think the Buffalo Sabres are going to be okay? Like Jack Quinn coming, JJ Peterka coming, Owen Power is like. For the first time in a while, I think we're looking at it and saying, I think they're going to be all right.
Jeff, their oldest defenseman last night was Casey Fitzgerald.
I know, right?
At the age of 24 with 30 games of NHL experience. That was their oldest defenseman in the lineup last night.
That does wink at one issue, which is it's fine to run with kids, and that's great, but what's the Oilers example? The Oilers example is you can't just load it with kids here. You need to have the right veterans, and you can't, again, we'll go back to the Oilers example. It can't be guys, I mean, Ryan Smith is the obvious example who brought Ryan Smith back. It still needs to be players that can relate to a younger player. Like it can't be the guy who's 35 years old and he's got 3 kids. He's got hustle all over the place because his life is way different than someone that's 22 years old.
Yeah.
So you need that like 25. What is it? You figure 25 to 29, like guys that are in that sort of sweet spot of the bat. Like they're a little bit older, but can still relate to the younger. Those are hard to find. I get it. Those are hard to find.
Or you bring in Craig Anderson, who can have a son who's 22. If he had the kid at 18, the math works.
I love the Craig Anderson story. Give me more of that. I love listen, I know it came down to a decision between Craig Anderson and Devin Dubnyk for the Buffalo Sabres once because I think they were talking with Edmonton about Koskinen last year at free agency, and then that vanished. Ullmark ends up signing with the Boston Bruins. I think that surprised the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, geez, they protected him in the expansion draft on an expiring contract, thinking they could get him, and then boom, that went away.
Yeah, it's not ready yet.
Devin Levi's on the horizon, but he's going back to Northeastern. Yeah, I think one of the things that they wanted with Craig Anderson, Dylan, this is to your point. I think it's a good one. One of the reasons why they wanted Craig Anderson, he's still a very competent netminder, but 2, really good around kids. Like really great around younger players. Like honestly, that was a huge factor in who they were bringing in here. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, a guy like Kyle Okposo is the same thing. I mean, he's obviously his better days are behind him. He's not playing on the 4th line. He's also playing on the power play. But anyways, but I think a guy like that, Jeff Skinner, you've got some guys in there that are pretty decent in that respect of the game.
Yeah. So, I just want Buffalo. I just want Buffalo to be good.
Oh God, so do I. It's so much better, man. And it's so much better when Buffalo's good. Yeah. Like it's so much better, and like there's just been. I just feel like Buffalo has sucked out too much of the oxygen for too long. Like there's been way too much drama around the Buffalo Sabres than there should be for a team that's that bad. Yeah. So I want to see them get better. I just love it when Buffalo's good. I love it. I love going to the games. I love going over the border. I love the atmosphere at the rink. It's so much better when the Buffalo Sabres are a good team.
Yeah. And for the first time in how long, I can finally say I think they're going to be okay. Like I think they're going to be fine. And who thought that after the Jack Eichel deal, right?
Yeah.
And sure, there've been some Hail Mary passes, but they've landed. Like, man, did anyone here on this podcast think that Tage Thompson was going to be a first line center?
No, and at the Stanley Cup final in 2019 after during the celebration and everything, I'm with Mike Harrington of the Buffalo News and Doug Armstrong sees Mike's credential from the Buffalo News and he says without prompting, he says, I'm going to tell you right now, this trade looks really bad for Buffalo, but it's going to even out. This kid is going to be really good. This kid's going to even out this trade, and he's doing it now. He's doing it.
He looks great. Tuck looks great. We'll see about Peyton Krebs. That's still going to take a while. The interesting thing about Krebs, it's interesting. You go back to the Vancouver draft where he was selected, and you had the Achilles injury that year in the Western Hockey League. He was on Buffalo's do not draft list. And now the only reason was because of the injury. So the way the way the do not, just so your listeners and viewers can understand it, the way the do not draft lists generally work is we're not going to take them at all, because if Peyton Krebs is available in the 3rd round, Buffalo are taking him, but just in the area where we think he's going to go, find another player. And a lot of that was because of that injury. So it wasn't like they didn't want it. They just didn't want him in that zone where he was going to get selected. But, in true Buffalo fashion, I suppose in some ways, he's gone from being on the do not draft list from the Sabres to being one of, if not the key piece that goes back in the Jack Eichel.
He was on the do not draft but trade for 3 years later after
a franchise center.
Yeah, for a franchise center. Yeah, when that blows up. Oh man. All right, Bobby Brink. I don't know much about Bobby Brink, so don't ask me. But Jeff.
So the first thing, high production. We saw him play with the Philadelphia Flyers. Played in his first game. So I've checked in on Philadelphia about Bobby Brink. So they see him as a middle six winger. With a lot of power play upside. He's a real good scorer, real good engine, works hard, all of it. The only thing is with Bobby Brink, and this matters less than ever before, only player smaller than him on the Flyers is Cam Atkinson.
Yeah.
That's it. It's only size. But the interesting thing about, Bobby Brink is we know the Philadelphia Flyers are not going to go through a rebuild. Like they never, this is still the fumes of Ed Snyder. There will be no rebuild here at all. We're coming right back at it. We're coming back at it next season. And you wonder where, players.
Well, you better sign Johnny Gaudreau then. You better sign Johnny Gaudreau.
They might.
That's what you better do.
You know what? You know who I wonder about there, Ken? Nazem Kadri. Nazem Kadri to me looks and feels and plays like a Philadelphia Flyer type player. Okay. Skill, snarl, little bit dirty. Like that's the one. Like I'm with you on Gaudreau, and that's the local boy goes home story.
Exactly.
That plays. I wonder about Kadri there. That's the guy that I watch for next season with Philadelphia.
Interesting.
Another sidebar. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
A lot of the Philadelphia Flyers played 7 tough games in the 70s, and they're from then on the Broad Street Bullies.
Oh, I don't know. They played a lot more than
they played a lot of tough games.
All right, so I'm being a little facetious here, but my point being that in the last 15 years, when was the Keith Primo years? That was 2003-ish. Mm-hmm. That was the last time that they were a tough team.
Yeah,
and they still have that kind of. You
had Legion
resume.
of Doom. You had, they've got that aura, but it's a culture. It's part of their DNA, right?
Yeah.
Their organizational DNA. So
you guys want to hear you guys want to hear a great Fred Shiro story? I love telling the story. Have you heard the Fred Shiro bacon and egg story?
No. Let's hear it.
So this is, I love this. I loved Fred Shiro, right?
He's awesome.
Just a wonderful coach. Like one of the only
kid's pretty good guy too.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
So this is when the Philadelphia Flyers riding high and winning Stanley Cup. So it's the mid 70s. And they're destroying teams, and they're into Pittsburgh one night. And this is when Pittsburgh was a really bad squad, and they lose. They go out the night before, and they end up losing 6-1. The Penguins just from stem to stern batter them, right? And Fred Shiro the next day at practice is one of those practices where it's just not a single puck hits the ice. It's just down and back, 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 down and back. And the guys come off, and they're all in the room, and their tongues are all hanging out, and Fred comes in. Said, it was pretty bad last night, gentlemen, and I heard you guys coming off the ice, and there was a lot of talk about, I made a contribution on my shift, and I did something. I made a contribution here. And he walks over the chalkboard, draws a plate, and he draws 2 eggs and 3 strips of bacon. He goes, gentlemen, this is what I had
it's
for
coming
breakfast.
To me now. Yeah.
This is what I had for breakfast. This tells me everything I expect out of you as a Philadelphia Flyer. And the guys are like, Fog's at it.
I know where you're going
today. With it. He said, made a contributions. On my breakfast plate this morning, the chicken made a contribution, but the pig made a commitment.
A commitment.
And that's what I expect of you.
Yes, I did hear that story. And that's a great one. That is a great one. Oh man.
There you go. There's my Freddie Shiro Flyer story.
We're off to Maddie Veneers, who is just all kinds of good. Just all kinds of good. He's going to be the first line centerman right now, and that's the end of it.
I wonder if Ron Francis drafted a version of himself or someone that he saw as himself. 200-foot guy, skilled guy, can play both sides of the puck, walks right in. I very much get the feeling that Seattle next year, I don't know if you can completely redo it or start over again, but that's kind of the way it feels heading into next season. It's going to be Seattle saying, let's try this again. Plus, we already have Maddie Veneers,
right?
And I wonder if that's going to be the vibe with the Seattle Kraken in the offseason. But Veneers, I just wonder if that's Ron Francis saying, "I see me. Let's take that guy," because he does very much seem like a Ron Francis style player.
Well, better for a GM like Ron Francis to draft guys where he sees himself than some GMs that were not quite as good as Ron Francis.
True.
Won't say any names here.
So now we're on to Kent Johnson, and I think
good guy in the room. Yeah, they don't flood the room. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There was a GM that told me once. Yeah, those good guys in the room, they're great but they always insist on going on the ice too.
So that's a French.
They always insist on playing the games too.
Si c'est bon dans la chambre, restez dans la chambre. If he's good,
stay in the room. Stay in the room. Kent Johnson, Jeffy.
Yep.
Here's a guy, and this is one of the guys I was talking about with the signing early. I'm not 100% convinced that he wouldn't have benefited from another year at Michigan. Yeah. And then coming into this situation, I don't know. This one seems a little rough to me, and I get the kid wanted to play, and he was probably pushing to get into the lineup, and they want to do the right thing with him, but I don't know. I think this one might be a little rushed.
I wonder about, and listen, we'll see as early as tonight after Columbus plays Montreal. Not that you can project out what the kid's career is going to be like after one game, but that's kind of what we do, folks.
Owen Power is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Apparently, yeah, he's the new Larry Robinson, according to us here, the way we're talking about him. I think, matter of fact, I think he invented oxygen as well, guys. If I'm not mistaken,
something like that. Yeah.
So, here's what I mean. Kent Johnson, look at we know this team is, obviously, trying to replace Pierre-Luc Dubois for a while as their number one center. And, Cole Sillinger looks real good. And I just look sort of up the gut and projectile. Like, this is a rebuilding team. Make no mistake about it. I just can't help but looking up the gut for the next 10 years for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it's Johnson and it's Sillinger. Yeah. Like, that's what I look at. Like, okay, Kekalina and Davidson here are putting all the building blocks in place, and you can make the argument like, sure, Sillinger, made this team, but should he have perhaps spent one more year? You know what I mean? But they want these guys in there now, and this is in there. Yeah, you're right. This is going to be the future of the Columbus Blue Jackets up the gut, and I think in their minds that's what it's going to be. And now it's our job to fill in all around these guys. Listen, I think Johnson. First of all, Johnson's had a really interesting season, hasn't he? Whether it's he's bounced around all over. Like we just talked about Owen Power. I mean, how many different jerseys and different tournaments and teams has he worn? Was it 4? I think in the last
Mason
season?
McTavish was 8.
McTavish
in the
holds the record.
Calendar year, he played for 8 teams. Because he got in like 4 games with their AHL team in San Diego, so he had 8 teams at the end of it. But skill adapts. I just look at Kent Johnson and say like that's a future up the gut for Columbus. Yeah, and you know what? In the Olympics, I thought he was really good, and I thought they didn't. I didn't think he got used as well as he could have. I thought they kind of turned to him when it was like, oh, we really need you now. So can you go out and get us a goal? Like,
go do something.
Go do something. Go do something. Help us. Like
in case of emergency, break glass. These are emergency break glass.
Exactly. So, I mean, is he? What is he? Is he Ryan Johansen? I hope not. I hope he's a little bit. His ceiling's a little bit higher than that, or I think considerably higher than that. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yep. Nope. Considerably higher than that. Certainly, he's a skilled guy. Okay. He's a high skilled player. He'll play in this league for a long time.
Okay. All right.
Nate Smith.
Minnesota State. Brought over to the Arizona Coyotes along with a contract, along with Brian Little's deal. I thought it was interesting right away. They put him with the veteran Andrew Ladd. I mean, nice, safe, smart. I think with Arizona, you're going to see a lot of players maybe get to the NHL earlier than expected. And maybe we can talk about this with Jack McBain as well. Like Arizona is going to have a hard time signing players. And that's why Bill Armstrong's out there, making trades for players with term. And the college pitch for a lot of these players is no one's standing in front of you. Like you don't have to beat out, like you're not going to have to beat out a lot of players for jobs here. So I think, that's attractive to a lot of guys, certainly attractive to Nate Smith. And I just think that it's another not that we have to, validate the hockey market of Florida, but guys from Tampa. He's another player from what us Canadians refer to as a non-traditional hockey market, which is now becoming more and more a traditional hockey market than ever before. Yeah. So I think that's always a positive sign for the game.
Yeah.
I love non-traditional hockey markets. Like I must be the only guy from Toronto that loves non-traditional hockey markets. When Nashville was in the Stanley Cup Finals, I was watching that on TV going, how do I get myself down there right now?
Totally.
Like, country music and hockey are like my two things. So it's like something
I think as long as you're honest about who you are, you'll be a success. And the best two examples, Nashville is the one that you mentioned, and Vegas as well. Like we're cheesy, we're over the top, we're cringeworthy, and damn it, that's Vegas, and it's going to be great.
Exactly. Let's
just be honest about it.
Play to our identity. Yeah, exactly.
Let's not disappointed that they didn't have more sequins on the uniforms there. Maybe some fringe coming off the sleeves. Right?
Perhaps, that would work.
Nate Smith and Jack McBain, though. I mean, those are really, really shrewd pickups, I think, for the Arizona Coyotes. I'm not sure why Jack McBain didn't want to play in Minnesota. I don't know why. I mean, it's not like he's got 15 great number one centermen ahead of him in that organization. I don't know what it was with him and Minnesota, but it just seems like him and his family didn't want to go there.
I wonder how much, the next 3 years of pain for Minnesota factor into a lot of these decisions. Like I'm with you. Like I look at, up the middle. It's not as if, he's looking at like, oh geez, Eiserman, Fedorov. Wow. How am I going to fit in here?
Jeez, I got to beat Eriksson Ek. But it's like, yeah. So,
I think I'm assuming this. I just wonder how much of a factor what the next 3 years and those buyouts of Suter and Parisi and what that's done to their salary cap and what that's, how that's going to squeeze players out here and what that's going to mean for this team. I just wonder how much that factors in.
But then why would you sign with Arizona then? Because there's going to be pain there too.
There is going to be
pain. They are tanking. They're tanking.
Absolutely.
It's an absolute utter no doubt tank, and I'm convinced that they are looking at the 2023 draft and they are seeing one of Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, or Matt Michkov, and they can get one of those guys. If they're bad enough, they can get one of those guys, and you're off to the races.
I think the plan for them is to be good when the rink is built.
Yeah.
That's what they're trending towards. There's going to be a lot of
the year after Austin Matthews becomes unrestricted free agent too.
Throw that in there, frighten every Maple Leafs fan.
That's going to be the clip that we put on Twitter. Is just Ken saying Austin Matthews going to. Yeah.
So I'll share something funny with you guys. So when that trade happened, when the McBain deal happened, I had one manager text me and just say, "Was that a trade or a college transfer? Didn't he already say no to ASU?" I think, okay, cue the jokes.
He went into the portal.
Yeah. Everybody's got to have a whack at the beginning. I think
it's kind of a step sideways, really. Is.
I think it's about opportunity there, and the guy's going to get a chance. McBain's going to get a chance to play right away. And good on him. Like he had a wonderful season with BC, and this was the year that he really popped. And you mentioned guys that went to the Olympics, and he was certainly one of them. And it was interesting the way that really quietly, no one around Minnesota really said much all season long about Jack McBain. I think there was just an assumption that they were just going to get it done and it was going to be simple, and it wasn't. And now he's a Coyote.
Yeah. All right, and then the last one, going back to the good old Toronto Maple Leafs, Matthew Nyes.
Boy, do they want him. Now, Minnesota's going to be really good. Minnesota's going to be really good next year. Like Gophers, I don't know. Is it official that Logan Cooley's going back? That's right. The Logan Cooley's going to Minnesota because that team that team's loaded up, and I know that's certainly a temptation for Nyes. But the Maple Leafs want him in the lineup. They want him in there and playing. Size-wise, he already fits. Like I had John Morosi on my radio show yesterday, and Morosi, who is plugged in to these college kids, like few others, he brought up the point that, the Maple Leafs got this guy in the second round, and if you already did a redraft, he would go top 10. Sure. Like this is a complete find for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they're dying to get him in the program right now. It's going to take a pretty big pitch and sell to get Knies in there. I think everybody thinks that he's leaning towards going back to Minnesota for one more season, but he is like, power forwards now don't look like power forwards from, the 80s and 90s. Like this, we're not talking about Neely and Tocchet and these Stevens and these types of guys, but he is what we all look at and say he's probably the modern power forward right now in the game. And the Maple Leafs are just, and their fans should be just drooling on getting this guy in.
Yeah. And I know it's been typically with defensemen that they've taken that second year, like, the Zach Werenski's, the Quinn Hughes, the Owen Powers, all of those guys, the Cale Makars, they've all held back when the team wanted them and taken that second year. But I see no downside to him going back for one more year at all. I see no downside to it for him, other than the fact that he won't be getting an NHL paycheck. But I mean,
that's coming
when you're playing the long game. I'm not sure it's that big a deal, but it'll be interesting to see if they can do it.
Yeah.